here. So this shows you the different types of blood that we will see.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sorry about the technical difficulties. The internet had dropped. So welcome back. If you're just tuning in, show is ITAL and Macrobiotics. So we're here with Dr. McWilliams. So we'll be speaking about health and wellness. So appreciate you guys sticking with us. And as let me for the technical difficulties again. Doc, you can continue where you had left off until Yasan.
Thank you, Becky.
Yes.
Well, let's refresh for the moment what we were speaking about, and that was bulk nutrients. So when I view a diet, I think of three things. One is the bulk nutrients, the protein, the fats, the carbohydrates that the patient is intaking, and the proportions that they're taking them in. And then the second is the micronutrients, which is what we're all familiar with, called vitamins and minerals. And then there's a third component, which the beautiful part of ITAL addresses and understands, is the essences or the flavors of fresh foods in God's nature that's combusted or released from these in the cooking process. And macrobiotics addresses that somewhat, but actually Chinese medicine addresses it even more, because they have differentiated the essences or the foods as they're cooked, coming off as what they call the 5 flavor theory. And the 5 flavor theory looks towards the energy of the food that comes off during either the cooking process. When you cook food, you release, of course, steam, and you release heat, which means you have odors like pungent, bitter, sour, sweet, these flavors that are released. And in the Chinese conception, that's taken not just into the physical body, but it's taken into the energy body. And this essence flavor is considered a semi-material substance to Chinese medicine, and actually flows in the body's meridian pathways, which is what the acupuncture needle is designed to guide or manipulate in the process of therapeutics. So we will be teaching in the course next year this Chinese dietary approach to balancing the flavors in the food as a nourishment to the organ system, which makes it very interesting and has direct physical consequences. And I'll just give you an example of that. The predominant addiction towards Western eating is in the range of two elements, which are actually manipulated by the food industry. One is the sweets, the sweet essence, which is all your confections, your sugar products. They are essentially designed to be addicting, and the food industry knows this. They've actually made a complete science out of it. And by eating too much of the sweets, we know the end result of that is obesity and diabetes. Okay, that's one aspect. Another aspect, which the food industry knows, is the salty components of food, the salt itself. And salt is heavily overused in the cooking industry and in the canning process. And this very much burdens the kidneys of the body and raises, as a consequence, to some degree, the blood pressure. But the most important aspect of consuming too much sodium chloride is it is demineralizing to the body because it increases the urination through the kidneys. When the kidneys draw water out of the blood, they not only draw water, but they draw minerals. And sodium is the only mineral element generally that the kidneys are able to resorb to adjust the volume content of the blood so that people can go many hours without drinking water because sodium is lost in the sweat, of course. but there is no compensatory mechanism in the kidneys to reabsorb the calcium, the magnesium, the potassium, and the trace elements. So by consuming too much of this salty food, a lot of the very important minerals from the cell are lost. And over a period of time, the body becomes demineralized. And of course, the end stage of that is not only cancer, as has been written about many times, but also osteoporosis, because calcium is lost in the urine as well. So that's two interesting elements of ancient Chinese philosophy regarding essences that comes off food during the cooking and seasoning process, because season has a dual meaning in Chinese medicine. You not only eat with the seasons, but you also season your food, okay, to balance the energetic components of the diet, which is an interesting philosophy. It's not something that's easily taught to patients, but for your own personal health, personal culinary taste, it's important to keep yourself in balance. We'll be teaching that in the course next year for those that you want to enroll, and we'll be posting up the links for you for the unique offering of the coming in 20 and 26. So that's the essence component. Let's get back to the bulk nutrients, which I mentioned, and that constitutes about 60% of your diet, and that's just an ordinary mixture of grains like rice, like wheat, like millet, like couscous, like quinoa, like all of your grain materials mixed with an equal portion of beans. And it can be any kind of bean, and it can be any kind of grain. If they're more or less 50-50 in the diet, you can be pretty much assured that you're going to get enough of the protein complements, as well as a pretty good complement of vitamins as well. And the third element, which deserves really an evening unto itself, but the general public is now becoming aware of it, and that is the third insult that the food industry put onto the American public back in the 1950s and 60s. And this is obscene use of cooking oil in the diet, which has drastically contributed to the destruction of the human frame. Oil, fried foods, this excessive use of oily things in the diet is tremendously damaging to the system, because it not only increases the fat component of the body, but it also increases what we call free radical damage, and a topic we will spend a whole evening on called silent inflammation. It whips up and generates like a low-grade fever in the body when you eat these oils, especially if they're cooked or acidified, and it's very damaging to the physiology. It's not immediately noticeable. It creeps up over the months and years of eating it. But unless you're following the hardcore rules of macrobiotics, which is if you use cooking oil, it's a very small amount of something like a pure sesame oil. Or, of course, in the Ital Diet, it's a small amount of coconut oil, which is a beneficial oil to the body. If you keep to small amounts in your cooking and seasoning and not using oil for a bulk nutrient, you'll be in pretty good shape in terms of the diet. So that is the topic of bulk nutrients, Ital Macrobiotic, equal grains and beans, more or less 60%. Vegetables and fruits used liberally and freely, about constituting 30% of your diet. And then you might ask, well, then, Doc, what is the last 10% of the diet?
So, Doc, what about olive oil, avocado oil? What about some of those oils?
Generally okay, as long as they're not processed, they're cold pressed. And
yes.
All of those are generally okay. If they're pressed in their natural state, they're not heated, they're stored immediately and kept in the fridge, they're fine. I'll just give you for an example, as I got onto this subject about 15 years ago. When I was in Miami, Florida, I was invited to a seminar of Dr. Barry Sears. Now, Dr. Barry Sears was the originator of the Zone Diet. And at that period in his life, he had just made the scientific discovery of what's called eicosanoids. Eicosanoids being a minute hormone secreted by the cell that generates the condition called silent inflammation. And eicosanoids are of such small amount in the body that they never even make it to the blood. They can hardly be measured at all, yet they exist in the intercellular space, and they're whipped up into a frenzy or a state of inflammatory reaction by the use of omega-6 cooking oils. Not omega-3, but omega-6, your 6 carbon chain linoleic acid. And he was definitely against people eating these oils. They're very unnatural. They're eaten in very high volumes with people that consume an average diet. And of course, because they make food more palatable, they're used in the food industry and they're flavored in everything. Cooks, bakeries, confectioneries, snacks, chips, everything's greased up. Everything is greasy in the American diet. And he would instruct his students to go into their kitchen, open up the cupboards, and take out every single processed pasteurized food and throw it in the garbage can and never eat it again, because the destructive nature of these linoleic omega-6 oils on the body, basically he believed was one of the major causes of cancer. And it was, to me, it was a riveting lecture. It was about an hour and a half long, and I got to be an acquaintance of Dr. Sears. He was a very nice, pleasant man, and we had a small group lecture, private lecture with him during that morning, and he told us a particular story, and the story goes like this. When he was with MIT, he was flown down to Mexico to an isolated village where people had just been recently discovered and they had no contact with civilization about 20 or 30 years ago. And when they were discovered by the University of Mexico scientists, they had no cancer, they had no hypertension, they had no heart disease. And he said they went into the village and they wanted to discover what was unique about their culture, because at this point in time, they were starting to get, guess what? Cancer, heart disease, hypertension, hyperlipidemia, all the civilized diseases. And he asked the audience, he says, what do you think was introduced into their culture that caused all this disease? Everybody raised their hand and they said sugar. And he said, no, it was not sugar. It was corn oil. It was cooking oil. And they had now, instead of pounding their grain onto a rock and making patties, same as they do, in other parts of the world, South America, Africa, they would take the grain, they would grind it with stone, which means the stone was putting, trace minerals and calcium, magnesium into their flour, and they were baking them on hot rocks, without oil. They had no heart disease, they had no cancer. But as soon as they got in the habit of boiling oil and dunking their tortillas in the oil, cancer and heart disease raised their ugly head. So it's a very interesting story, and we know today that that is basically true. It is a very large contributor of not just diabetes and obesity and hypertension, but also it's extremely inflammatory towards people that have arthritis, joint disease, and joint pain. So that's a summation of the beauty of the ITAL Macrobiotic diet. 60% grains and beans, 30% fruits and vegetables, and you want to know what the last 10% is?
Yes.
Just go ahead.
The last 10% is what keeps you normal. I call it the cheat 10%. Just basically eat anything you want, You want to
Yes.
have a cookie and ice cream once in a while, take a cookie and ice cream. You want a hot dog, eat a hot dog. Okay?
Yes.
Really no big deal because the human body is very resilient. It has a very powerful self-healing aspect. And that 10%, allows you to eat in the company of other people with the kind of poisonous diet that they seem to prefer. It allows you to eat a little snippet or snack or piece of chocolate or something you like to have to kind of satisfy your own basic instincts. So 10% to me is okay because everybody
Yes.
cheats. Everybody has a
It's a
little
balance.
preference, and it's enough of a balance where there's just no big
Yes.
deal. So that's my 60-30-10 philosophy towards eating.
Per-
ITAL
Perfect. I mean,
Macrobiotics.
yes. Well, since I was 18, I've been eating the vegan way. I would call it the Ital way. No fish, no dairy, no alcohol. Just strictly beans and vegetables and fruits, and it works fine. And I'm still doing it. I mean, the main purpose is to understand why we're eating and what are we eating for. You see, we tend to eat because something tastes nice, but not realize we're just eating for a nutritional reason. It's just like the plants extract all the nutrients from the soil out to its transport system into the flour, into the food, and we eat the food or the vegetables just for the nutrients itself, for the protein, for the microbiotics, the micronutrients, and you only can really get your source or your nutrients from two sources. Is either the plant based or you're going to be animal based. I be both for some people. So it's just to realize if you're eating plant based, you're getting 100% of the primary nutrients and the nutrients that you need and all the nutrients that the body really need. But once you're eating other animal sources, every time energy is transfer, energy is lost. So if you're eating a chicken where the chicken have been killed, then you're losing some nutrients. So, and the more longer it's been stored, it just the nutrients capacity is just keep dropping. So the more fresh you eat your fruits and vegetables. I mean, I haven't taken any vitamins and minerals for over 30 years. I'm 48 years old now, and I've been doing this since I'm 17, and it's just because of become a part of my life. So it's just a normal thing. I mean, on the farm today, if I sweat in the morning doing some work, I'll just replace that with some jelly water because you're having all the electrolytes, all amino acids and minerals and stuff like that. So it works. It's like you lose anything, and then you relax your body throughout the day so your cells will regenerate, and then you go back again. So I guess people over the years, I tend to know how to eat, know how to maneuver, how to rest your body and stuff like that. And people don't really pay attention because people are more or less busy, stuck in the office, which I consider a good job, sitting behind a desk for hours upon hours, 12 hours a day, sometimes 14, and not realizing the body is sitting in one way and not even getting time. When they get out the office, is back into their car, just sitting in the same position. So really, how does that affect the body, especially the intestine, when one just keeps sitting for a long period of time, whether they're bus driver, how these things affect and a toll on the body?
You're very much correct, and you're very much espousing, the natural rules of health as we would like to know them. And I'm happy you're well doing that. And living on Nevis allows you to do that because of the natural sunlight and natural air. However, most people living in northern climates, they don't live outdoors anymore. They live in a sequestered shelter environment. They get no sunshine. They get relatively small amounts of really what we would call fresh air, and they inhale a lot of pollutants, and they eat out of grocery stores and restaurants, which is very toxic. And then, therefore, they develop what we call vitamin-dependent diseases. And that is basically one of my specialties, is spotting these vitamin-dependent diseases as people walk into my clinic on Nevis. I know all the hallmarks and all the signs of the individual nutrients that people can gradually develop in their system until it becomes a crisis. And then the only way to regenerate them quickly is to give them high doses of vitamins to resuscitate them, and hope that we have time to educate them on the topic that we're talking about, is how to go back to natural living, which in the Caribbean, it's naturally, and it's easy to understand because it's part of the culture. It's ITAL, which is why I love the ITAL way, because I eat that way on Nevis. People don't realize that, but I don't even cook with gas on Nevis. All of my food is solar cooked. I only eat with the sun when I live on Nevis. So
yes, but the Ital way is said to be the we call it the rabbit feed. You don't have no chicken, you don't have no pork
right.
and no mutton and no this. So they don't understand how we eat it, and you're not getting any protein, and you're not getting any this, and you're not getting any that. But I'm still here. I'm fine, very energetic, always going. So
Yeah.
it's amazing to me.
It's quite interesting, Banky,
Yes.
that the doc is here and the doc is recommending ITAL living and ITAL eating. And it's also nice to hear the comparison with the macrobiotic diet, which is quite similar. And I find maybe in more modern times, because of the fact that Rastafari was discriminated so much in the Caribbean, anything that was associated with Rastafari also was put on the back burner as well. And so, as much as at this point it's quite interesting and intriguing to hear, the promotion from this level, there would have been in the Caribbean, as much as you may not know, there would have been a great pushback to this. And as Banky was just highlighting, they would say that you guys must be goats because you guys are just eating bush, or you guys must be rabbits because that's all you're eating.
Yes.
And it really takes a bit of an education to try to get people to realize that, hey, the rabbits eat the leaves and so on, and that's the primary source of the nutrients or minerals. And you are now eating the rabbit or the pig or the sheep. The same minerals or nutrients, but you're getting it in a secondary form because you're getting it after now the rabbit or the animal would have eaten it and it would have gone through whatever processes in their body to now then come
So
to
you need
your body.
more. So you're gonna need
So,
more of that source to eat. You're gonna need more protein. You have to eat more of the meat to get more protein than I eating the beans. So they have to realize the amount and stuff like that.
so
Guide your
that's
son.
why it's so important still for us to engage in this discussion. And also, I'm happy that it's the doc, who is a trained medical professional and highly respected, is actually presenting this and promoting this. And so I just wanted to interject that. I also wanted to ask your opinion in relation to the plant moringa, and I don't know how much you have studied it or looked at it or researched it, but in terms of some of the things that's been said about it in relation to the proteins, where some people say that they cannot get enough proteins from plants. It is said to have 18 of the 21 amino acids that the bodies need. So, for those who may think that they really need a good source of protein, would that be something that you recommend, or are you not necessarily familiar with it from a research perspective?
Before that
I,
answer that, let me just say the lines are open if anyone want to ask a question or stuff like that, and we are ready to take questions. Well, Doc, answer the question. Go ahead, Doc.
well, I would like to research that because on the macrobiotic side, it's traditionally been the soybean, which is a
Yes.
high protein content bean with a fairly high, nice complement of amino acids. So, thank you for pointing that out, and I'll have the research done. Believe me, with AI, I can do this extremely fast today. So,
Well,
have
it
all
is said
sorted
the
next week.
the
But
moringa the
it's
moringa tree
it's
is said
perfectly
to have.
natural. God
Yeah, we're
provides.
acting up.
So, go ahead, Banky.
Yeah, well, the moringa tree is said to have more calcium than drinking milk or anything like that, more protein than eating whether your fish and more amino acid and stuff
More
like that.
iron.
So it's a more
There's more
iron than
potassium,
banana. Or,
potassium than
yeah,
banana.
it
So it's quite an
in some
interesting plant.
places. Yes, and
That,
even if the pods, and it's a legume, the pods are small, like the farm of string beans. You can use them as your string bean, as also as a protein source and stuff like that. And also the seed itself is also used in some countries when it comes to poverty and less clean water. That the seeds are pounded into a paste and is used in within the dirty
Water.
water and the unclean water, and it will purify the water in a lot of these countries. So it's a $6 billion industry. I mean, around here we have all kind of plants around here, whether it's soursop, whether it's moringa, whether it's avocados, but we don't use them as we're supposed to traditionally. Only when we tend to get sick, then they'll want to start to use it and want it to work one time. But the thing about using the herbs is like this evening I'll drink something, whether it's peppermint, whether it's shallow whatever it is. I drink a lot of teas. My house drink a lot of teas because that's something I we grew up doing. But we have moved away. We tend to be drinking a lot of cold juices and different stuff. And because yes, it's reality. Television has influenced our diet a lot, and the community itself. We want to see on TV, by cable TV and satellite. You've been influenced to see Red Lobster, you see McDonald's, and most of the time, this food industry they prey on the children. So the supermarkets and all these places are well laid out when it comes to targeting your children. They put these things at a lower level, where the kids can pick it up and reach it. And then as you enter the supermarket, the least healthiest stuff is in a small area where you enter the door, you find on the left hand side you see a little fresh vegetables, a small area, but the whole supermarket is full of processed food. And when you see people take up pushing their cart, the whole cart is filled with processed food, tin stuff, packaged stuff, and then some of them might not have a lettuce or tomato or nothing. It's just all processed stuff. So at the end of the day,
and
we the people is who are killing ourselves slowly. We have no one else to blame. We are the one we really killing ourselves. Yes, Doc.
amen. I've been saying that for years. There's so much natural wealth and beauty on Nevis that we could be having if the agricultural industry would just pick up and take advantage of what we have already on the island. And
Yeah, but
for the
yeah,
and
I was
for,
about to say. Go ahead, Doc.
go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Bishop.
No, I was about to say, you see, the people who lead in us, if they are not health conscious in that aspect of it and just go about daily and eating anything, and then when they end up with a kind of illness, then they don't say, "Oh, we're going to exercise." But as an everyday practice is not their livelihood, how they live and what they practice. So the interest when it comes to leading the people and lead by example, that's just definitely not going to work. And it shows every day within the society where agriculture is really at the bottom and not the most important sector, which is the most craziest thing, because if the agriculture sector is at the right place where we're promoting healthy, good organic food and eliminating out of these dangerous pesticides and chemicals that are, the food are grown within the environment. Because Nevis is such a small place. If I have a farmer farming 2 miles away from me with the wind drift and the type of chemical that can really the wind drift can send those chemical compounds onto your farm, into your home, but we're not really looking at it like that. So we have the wrong concept. So it's really need one who really understand the dangers of these chemicals and stuff like that, and the environment we live in, and how it really can affect a small community in a small island like this Nevis. So it's not just the farmers, the hoteliers, the homeowners. They use dangerous pesticides and herbicides amongst the environment to control weeds and other pests and stuff like that. Even one of the most common stuff people tend to have in their house is Sevin, and Sevin is very highly toxic. It's in the red zone, but most Caribbean people tend to have Sevin right under their sink and not even thinking how dangerous it is. And these are the sad things that, I mean, the general public go without not being aware of it. So the agriculture department really have a big task on their hand where these things should be played on NTV and played over the radio when it comes to community development and affairs and stuff like when it comes to educate, what not to keep in the house when it comes to dangerous pesticides and stuff like that, and what is safe to use, even if you use homemade cocktails and stuff like that, where they use a little this liquid, some cayenne pepper, you add some different sour sap, sugar apple, all those are also insecticide also, along with some neem and some baking soda. So it's just different way. But the main important thing is to observe the crop. Observation, observation, observation. But most time you just leave the crop and go back 2 or 3 weeks later. You already end up in an infestation because you're not really monitor the environment and the crop in a sense like that. So you're forced to use a lot of pesticides, which in terms harm the environment and harm you as the one who's going to be eating it. Yes, son.
Well, as I listen to our presentation and as I would have had some conversations with the doc prior to doing this show, one of the things that I'm recognizing, I think that we really need to zoom in on is this marriage, because I think we have the ability to fix that problem that suggested in the sense of that marriage between health and agriculture. So by getting people to recognize the seriousness of agriculture and the connection to their health, I think this could go a long way, and also marrying it with tourism, where you could have people coming in for health tourism as a form of sort of like what Dr. Sebi was doing in Honduras, where people can come in for a couple of weeks or months and get treatment and be recuperating in a tropical climate where the air is pure and not polluted as much, and you have all of these natural plants and herbs growing around you, and your food will be picked fresh from the garden, not losing a lot of the antibiotics. Right. So these are the things that as we do this and as we continue to promote this, with the hope that folks overseas as well as folks locally would want to get on board with the courses that are being offered, and so that we can help to demonstrate by changing that health on Nevis and St. Kitts and Nevis, and then expanding it throughout the region and the rest of the world, all those who are connected. So I think that is the gist of what we are seeking to do here, and we are hoping that folks can embrace the opportunity that is being afforded.
Well, thank you, Yasun. And let me point out now a hidden factor that's not ordinarily known or understood, not only by the public, but even the medical community. When your soil is not healthy and you have to rely on pesticides to grow your crops, those two go hand in hand. A good organic farmer will argue if the soil is perfectly healthy from the start of the planting season and is enriched in enough of the nutrients, very little pesticides at all have to be used to grow the crop. That's because the organisms, the microbes that are in the soil, are self-protective, and the plant grows up in a harmonious environment. And it's because of lack mainly of a mineral or two or three that's in the soil, along with poorly aerated soil and poorly fostered microbial growth, that the plant grows weak and is required to have these herbicides and pesticides to continue making fruit, which is, of course, the vegetables that we eat. So here's the concept that is now just coming to light in our field, that's being verified by science, which has really been known actually for a long time. The plant that you eat from the soil that is grown in, the microbes that are in the soil end up in the plant, and they end up in the fruit, they end up in the vegetable. And when you ingest that and eat it, it goes into your gut and becomes part of your probiotics. It becomes part of your biotics of your gut. And if they're pathogenic or they're not healthy for the soil itself, it only makes sense that it's not going to be healthy for the animal that eats it. And that contributes to a very slow intoxication of the human body, is when you eat these noxious, as we call them, products from the grocery store that are grown in these artificials. Over time, your body becomes devitalized, it becomes demineralized, and you start to become, in parallel, as sick as the soil from the plants that are grown in them. So that's a hidden aspect that a lot of people don't understand. And we study this from a great depth in our courses in our school, because this is actually part of the subject of parasitology. It's part of parasitology. Okay, so what is a parasite? Well, a parasite is generally a smaller organism than the host that feeds off the nutrition of the host, devitalizes the host, and if it's allowed to thrive over time, will actually take the host to its death. That's the definition of a parasite. So when we say parasite to the normal public, they think, well, that's worms, that's, vermin that grow in your gut, and the odd sort of parasite that might get in your eyeball and cause river blindness, or a parasite that unusually would get in your brain and there'd be like a small worm in your brain. Well, those aren't the worst of the parasites. The worst of the parasites are actually the bacteria themselves. And this is a relatively unexplored topic in medicine, although it's published and it's known. It's because I think of the food industry and of big pharma and the antibiotic industry, it's a subject that they just don't want to talk about because, for one, it doesn't promote the products that they produce, which is big agro and which is antibiotics and big pharma. And two, it's difficult to educate the public on this because it's considered a very dirty or nasty subject. But it's one that we in natural medicine, we have to understand and come to grips with. And we basically do this in our courses on digestion, in understanding the bacteria in the small intestine and the large intestine. And we teach subjects like they used to teach in medical school in England. Back in the 1920s and 30s, the gastroenterologists of England basically made a statement. They said, death begins in the colon. Death begins in the colon because the bacteria that's in the colon poisons as they multiply in the gut, and as they compost in the human body, these poisons get in the blood and slowly poison the human tissues and create a litany of chronic diseases that are difficult to pinpoint because of the lack of understanding that medicine has, and also the lack of diagnostic ability to diagnose these. But here we are in 20 and 25, 100 later, and we have those diagnostic abilities. It's called the microscope. We can look at blood and we can see these parasites in the blood, the microscopic parasites, and we know they're coming from the gut. And once the person readopts a natural diet, they get off the meat products, they eat an ITAL-based type diet, even within a week, the blood cleans up beautifully, the microbes in the blood disappear, the red blood cells become shaped and happy. And like I teach my students, when the red blood cell comes back and winks at you, you know you've done a good job educating the patient on what to eat. So we're able to do that. It's visually, diagnostically capable.
One of the things, Doc, when it comes to growing of food, there's a lot of different growing techniques. Some will use hydroponic systems, some will use different medium, whether it's premix, which is a clean medium, sterilized, have a clean pH, don't have any nutrients in it. You'll have perlite, you'll have potting soil, but a lot of these growing medium, whereas I'm using the soil, the natural soil, which having all the earthworms, all the good mycorrhizas and stuff like that.
Correct.
Some grows inside of the in some warehouses where there's lettuce in containers and stuff like that on the lights and different stuff. What's the difference with those food, how they're grown, compared to food grown in the natural sunlight, in the dew, in the rain, with these vegetables and fruits that are grown? Same thing with cannabis, also grown indoors with amongst in just concrete building steel structures, but not any environment around with nature amongst the grass, other fruit trees around. What's the difference with those type of food in those environment?
Yes, well, the hothouse vegetables, as we call them, which is typically hydroponic and grown in a sterile environment, so to speak, are very much deneutralized and devitalized. You don't get the whole complement. Nutrition is not just 13 or 20 vitamins and minerals. It's the graina of the plant itself. It's the microbes that the plant grow in, that the flora and fauna enriches. And the simple way that farmers know the taste difference between a tomato that grows in a nicely composted soil compared to a tomato that's grown in a hydroponic hothouse, the taste is radically different. And there's a general rule in organic agriculture understood that the difference is easily seen between a hydroponic food and a food grown in organic soil. One will rot in the refrigerator, whereas the nutritive organically grown vegetable will simply dehydrate, but it won't rot. It won't grow fungus like the hothouse tomato grows fungus so quickly. And that's aside from the taste, it can just be seen in the plant's behavior. Once it's picked from the vine, the hothouse vegetables will grow fungus very quickly because they're dying the moment they're taken off the stem. So that is one of the hidden aspects of the plant, is the microbes that are within the plant, which are either going to foster a good microbiological environment for your gut, or they're going to contribute to a degenerative process over time. Another aspect that is very much unknown in the food, well, it's well known in the food industry, but it's not talked about. And it's not known in medicine because it's not talked about. It's almost a forbidden subject. And that's the concept of mycotoxins. Fungal toxins that grow on food once they're picked from the vine, particularly your grains, which are stored in silos in dark areas where there's just enough moisture to grow fungus. And what fungus secrete are poisons. They're called mycotoxins, okay? And these mycotoxins are extremely insidious, to the extreme point that there is a small school of thought in medicine that one of the major causes of cancer are these mycotoxins in foods. They're very much found in bread. They're found in rye and grain. They're found in peanuts, like aflatoxins, and they're found in corn, like the fusarium fungus that grows inside the kernel that can't be seen on the outside, and therefore it's not measured. Yet on the inside, it's growing inside the kernel, and it's secreting fusarium toxins, which are extremely carcinogenic, which bioaccumulate in the body over time. They're difficult for the body to get rid of once they're ingested, and they're insidious. They're difficult to measure biologically. They're not standard laboratory equipment to do this, and yet the consuming public is eating huge amounts of these mycotoxins every year in the grocery store type food supply. And it's a subject that we teach in the school, and ways to combat it. And of course, again, I'll say the ways to combat it is develop a macrobiotic or an ITAL, and you'll be eating least amounts of these products because you're not eating out of the grocery store anymore. You're eating the food coming off Mother Nature, and you're cooking in a natural, biologic way.
Doc, you spoke to, as you were speaking just a moment ago, you reminded me of a concept that you spoke of, where basically it speaks to us based on your geographic location, the sort of bacterial or bacteria or microbes that are in the soil would sort of be kind of adjusted to your body or would be better suited for you. So it's better for you to eat foods that are grown in your local, so to speak. You would want to expound on that a little bit?
Well, that was a subject of natural medicine back in the day, let's say, when things were still very much natural. People were buying from the produce stands of their local farming community, back in the 1910s and 20s and 30s. And then really what changed the world was World War II. World War II industrialized society. It industrialized the food supply. The chemical combine, which was called the Chemical Combine of Africa Vart, which is well known in American culture. They were actually the people responsible for financing Hitler's World War II. When they migrated to the United States, they brought their chemical industry with them. They overtook Big Pharma and they overtook agriculture, and they started promoting the synthetic fertilization of soils. They started promoting their pesticides and these kinds of products. And as much as Columbus came to the Caribbean and introduced spices to Europe that changed the world culinary habit, well, it was the German chemical companies that came to the United States and also got established in Europe that promoted this big agricultural industry, and that was the second onslaught of changing the world's culinary habits. But now it wasn't for taste and flavors, it was for production and bulk feeding of nutrients to the world worldwide. And I don't like to get negative on obviously good aspects that has done to keep people alive, living longer, having easier access to food. But of course, anything that gets in the corporate hands that can make money will obviously be taken to the extreme, just like Big Pharma took the vaccine thing with COVID to the extreme. The agricultural industry has obviously taken their things to the extreme, where profit takes precedent over people. And that's where we are today. But to get back, sorry for the rant, but to get back to your original question, yes, it only makes sense that if you're growing your own food in your own soil in your own region, your body is going to be adapted to these microbes that are in the ground, in the soil, in the air, in the things that you touch, the air that you breathe. It's going to be more harmonious for you rather than something that's introduced from a foreign culture, from a foreign bacteria, or a foreign fungus for that matter, that will change. But today, I think the only practical example we can take from this is to foster a spirit in people. And this was actually going to be the last part of my lecture tonight. There's an unseen element in food now where if you don't start growing your own food in your own backyard, you're going to suffer the consequence of chronic disease because of genetically modified food. And the most horrific aspect that's now being done with Big Agri is injecting and actually growing vaccines inside the food itself. You're putting unknown things into your gut that's not labeled on the product. You have no idea what it is or what they've done to the food. And we are now at that point in civilization where if you want to be healthy and you want your family to be healthy, you've got to start adopting and learning these precepts for your own sake, because there is going to be no doctor and no hospital and no super drug that's going to save you when the sad day comes that you're diagnosed with something that's considered relatively incurable. We are at that point now. We're at the breaking point. People are going to have to self-educate. They're going to have to start taking responsibilities for themselves. They're going to have to start strategically not planting ornamentals in their yards for something that looks pretty to the public, but planting trees in their yards that produces fruit that feeds your family, and growing vegetables during the season, and start getting back to nature as quickly as possible, because the day has come that you go in the grocery store now, you can't trust what you're buying. That day's over. It's finished. It's gone. It will never come back. So you have to foster your local farming community. You have to start soliciting them for your food, and start, as much as everybody wants to be international, now's the time. If you want to be healthy, you're going to have to go local. And I think
but you see, you're right on point. You're right on point with that. We are living in the time where you just can't trust your food, but our leaders is still, I guess, they're in their own realm. So they are just protecting big pharmaceuticals or big businesses who support their political gain, whatever it is, but they're not really putting the investment and encouraging, especially living in a place like Navy Sinkers. We have fertile land, fertile soil, water, and you're not putting in investment where this is the primary part going to affect your healthcare system, which you only need less people and renal, less people and the non-communicable diseases because of a healthy lifestyle when it comes to the food, and people who walk more, who are more, who outdoor more. We are not encouraging these things. We are encouraging people to sit in an office on the AC for long hours, going early in the morning and come out in the evening, and just barely get 1 or 2 days on the weekend, and their body is just really just overworked, so that they even get time to come outside. And then the routine continue over and over. So the stress levels upon this type of food they're eating, and you will come down sick in a situation like that, because upon the AC, some of them is not maintained properly with the gas that is used. So they're really getting it with mold and all kind of different stuff within the environment that they had. So most people are really sick within their home or their job, because depending on how they live, they don't even want to open up their windows for some fresh air to come inside. We are just living in an environment where being in AC is being you have a nice job. Walking is not considered being nice no more. You go to the bank, you want to park in front of the bank door. You don't want to walk 10, 15 feet. We are just becoming less fit and more overweight. It's just really sad that the society we live in this point, and that as a healthcare, in the healthcare system, instead of we promote healthy eating, encourage one to have a little space to whether to grow in parks or whatever it is. We're really not encouraging this as we should. This thing should be mandatory, and it should be a national drive if we're going to see us about having a more healthier, longer population, and if our people are going to live longer. We're going to have to start, as you said, the time has come, which exists now, where it's not 20, 30 years down the road. The 20, 30 years on the road is now that we're speaking about. The food, you cannot trust your food. It might look better into the eyes, but yet you're not seeing how it's grown from this package, how long it takes to reach from the boat, take 5 days. When those harvests, the show didn't harvest them when the boat reached the same day. So we're not seeing that prospect, that part of it. We're just seeing, yes, right.
I just have to say, right, that we have begun here, and we have to give kudos to Dr. McWilliams for literally putting his money where his mouth is. He's not saying that now is the time. He's demonstrating, by sponsoring a show like this, putting on a show like this, and not just a show, by actually using it as course material for this course that we are promoting. And we are hopeful, I'm going to give you that opportunity, Doc, to tell our listening audience more about this program that we are working on and that we're coming forward with. And that would be a part of our culminating for this evening, and then have them prepared for next week, what we are going to be probably looking at for next week. And also you can update them on the Sunday session that we usually have as well.
Well, thank you so much, Gaston. Well, here is the program. And Ira will be so kind to put the links up for you. We have the plan to do a one-year course next year, which is an equivalent to a bachelor's degree in natural medicine. All right, it's 4 terms with 3 or 4 courses per term. And I will be here 3 Wednesday nights a month for the whole of 2026. It's open to the public, but woven into my lectures will be the supplements of these courses that are online. They're completely self-automated. There's lots of video content of these courses. There's lesson materials, and there's links for various books and other items. They're all self-inclusive. You don't need to have anything else than just join our school. And that will start in January of next year. Right now, you can dip your toes into the bath hot springs and take the first course, which is online for just $100. And it's what we call healthology. It's a course in basic health, basic review of chemistry that everyone learned in high school, basic review of anatomy, and then going on into the aspects of good digestive health, good eating, and a review of the vitamins and minerals. And this course has been with our school now for over 25 years. Everyone loves the course, even medical doctors tell me. They just enjoyed listening to the 15 60-minute lectures because it was just a great review of the overwhelming principal concepts of just what we talked about this evening. ITAL and macrobiotics, clean eating, clean gut, clean health, clean bacteria, drinking plenty of water, all the basic health principles, but it's in a nice format that's easy for everyone to learn. So that is what we're offering this evening. And I see that Ira so kindly is putting up the links for you to enroll. We've had
the links are already at the in the descriptions, and they're also at the bottom of the talker. And
yes.
So the links, the links are already there already. So once they click on they'll find all the information there. So that was already automated. Yes. But Doc, I mean, so, it's been an hour. You got anything? Go ahead. Anything else you want to speak on?
Three live lessons per evening, and as a student of the school, you'll also get privy to our Sunday lecture. Tafari, I think you were on our Sunday lecture for the first time. How was that lecture for you this last weekend? Yasun.
The lecture was quite informative. It is very informative and educational, being in the presence of some other professionals. I love the story of the guy who went through the issues with the FDA and getting certified, and the challenges, and learning about the approach of using the 508 from a ministerial standpoint. So it was quite informative and interesting at the same time. So I definitely would recommend others to be sure to be on and join in.
Have a lot of noise in the background, your son. You have a lot of noise in the background.
I'm sure you're not hearing me that loud, but it's rain falling in the background. So I'll allow Banky to wrap up. I'm getting showers of blessings. The plants are happy.
All right, beautiful. I was just wondering what was that. Well, I just want to thank everyone for tuning in again. I mean, to Medicine for You. It shows that you have some what some interest when it comes to eating right, and it's very important. I mean, if you don't eat right, you're gonna see one of the rule of medicine is if you don't put it in your body, you won't get sick. So, and the next rule is also the only way you know your food is safe is by growing it yourself. So always been here for the last 5+ years, encouraging each and everyone who hear our voice to start growing some what to eat. No space is too small or too big to plant. You just got to start, and it's never too late to start. Once you're breathing, you can always, you never sit down, get a pot, get some recycled material and plant, get some rich soil and some leaves and make your own planting medium and just plant what you like to eat. Just a start. If this is one tomato tree, one bell pepper, a scallion, whatever it is, use fresh stuff. It's the only way. I mean, any doctor who you goes to, once you have any kind of ailment, they will tell you you have to change how you eat. That's just the reality. First thing I ask what you eat, how you rest, how it is. And these are just some of the basic things. You don't need a rocket scientist. So so your health starts with you. So you're going to make that first primary step when it comes to taking care of yourself. The doctor can just give you the advice, but if you don't implement these things that they tell you, it's not going to work. So you gotta be disciplined and have the will to change and want better for yourself. So we greatly appreciate you guys tuning in on another Wednesday evening for Medicine for You, traditional bush medicine by Dr. McWilliams. He's been here in Nevis for over 30 years, and we're glad to have him here on the island to share some of his wealth and using our traditional medicine, how we grew up, our local bush and stuff like that, which our ancestors used to heal us. So it's a beautiful thing that he's embracing it. So I just want to give much kudos to him for that. Definitely always looking for the reason on every Wednesday, and definitely looking for next week, Wednesday, reason also the next topic. So continue sharing the link and subscribe and join up and take the courses also, because yourself can continue the culture by having your own practices at the same time when it comes to having this, because the intention of McWilliams is to have franchise of Jade Wellness Center throughout the whole region and throughout the whole world. And it's a beautiful thing. It's like you have McDonald's, you have Kentucky Fried. Well, you can have a wellness center the same way too. So by taking these 3 courses, and then you'll get all the machineries for free and everything. It's a beautiful thing. It's an easy business setup right there. It's a good investment. It's cheaper than investing in a car. People buy a car for hundreds of thousands of dollars, 70,000, and this a whole business would not even cost you half the price, a quarter of that. So I think it's a very good investment that you guys can look into and take up the challenge. Yes, sir.
There's definitely an opportunity you don't want to miss, and so I really want to encourage folks, especially on Nevis, to take on the opportunity, and for those on St. Kitts as well and throughout the region. Until next week, Wednesday, Doc, and until Sunday again for another program. Enough love, guidance. See you guys on Friday for another edition of Everything Agriculture right here on Real Entertainment Network.
And our guest will be Dr. Makil Emmanuel, professor researcher out of UWI Mona campus. So definitely we'll be speaking of the importance of agriculture in a holistic way, and cannabis also. And Dr. Makil have been the technician research when it come to in agronomy and setting up all the cannabis strains when it comes into Jamaica, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, Antigua, and I think we'll be also partnering here, working along with St. Kitts and Nevis. So definitely looking forward for that reasoning with Dr. Emmanuel. And that is tune in. That is this Friday at 7 o'clock. Doc, definitely looking forward for the reasoning next week, Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend.
I came from Colorado to see Dr. McWilliams.
Good day, Dr.
came to Colorado to see Dr. McWilliams.
Good day, Dr.